All right, later on in the program, we're standing by to get some signal from our Meduguri studio, where Senator Alindume will be joining us in a moment. But let's also tell you that the National Economic Council a few days ago had asked that the tax reforms bill be withdrawn. But of course, the federal government, through the presidency, had responded to that, and the federal government has said it won't withdraw the four tax bills sent to lawmakers, a move likely to enrage some powerful state governors and some leaders who are stood against that bill. Tonight, I'm being joined to give some clarity on what this bill means by Mr. Matthew Monjubola, who is the Coordinating Director, Compliance and Enforcement Group at the Federal Inland Revenue Service. He's live for us here in Abuja studio. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Why is it difficult for this bill to be withdrawn? The president has said it wouldn't be withdrawn. The NEC has advised the federal government to withdraw it. But it does look like some of you who understand the content of those proposals, there are four of them, isn't it? Why do you think it's so important to the reforms, the tax reforms agenda of this government?
Thank you very much, Shil. The tax bills that we have currently with the National Assembly are very comprehensive, and they address every facet of the tax system, whether the taxations of individual, of property, of transactions and companies. And so it also has to do with rearrangement of tax administration itself within Nigeria. And so it could be a very serious step backwards if that bill, if those bills were withdrawn from the National Assembly. And if we analyze what the president had said, he said that if the bills are not laws yet until they are passed into law by the National Assembly, and which means there are legislative actions that could be done, there could be amendments, there could be changes, which the National Assembly is empowered by the Constitution to do in the process of delivering their work. And therefore, withdrawing those bills is not the solution, but rather allowing them to go through the legislative process, which includes public hearing, which includes submission of memoranda to the National Assembly. And so I think the president has spoken in wisdom so that we will not be taking backward steps. The last time we had a comprehensive review of tax law was 1993 in Nigeria. And so we are much overdue to review our tax system.
So if you look at it, you heard what the northern leaders said. It's not only the governors, but some of the traditional rulers came out to say this is skewed against the North. What do you think in that bill aggravated or annoyed or got the northern leaders angry or concerned about? It's a derivation aspect of it. It does look to me. Why do you think they're not happy?
Well, I'm not sure they are not happy.
They were not, because they said they were going to, and they went the following day, part of those who moved against it at the National Economic Council meeting to say, withdraw this bill. And that was the position of NEC.
Yeah, I think if you look at the communique of the excellencies and from the North, was speaking particularly concerning the use of derivation as one of the major factors in allocating the revenue from VAT. And if you look at that, it is only one part of a section in a law that has over 200 sections, covering over 200 pages. And I also believe that there had been a lot of probably miscommunication. Probably quite a number of those communicating and advocating withdrawal of the bills probably have not studied comprehensively all the provisions in those bills. If they have, that they will see that the proposal being complained about should actually have been applauded by everybody.
Let's talk specifically, Mr. Monjubola.
Yeah.
If you are asking, and this is about the VAT specifically that is causing the problem, if you are asking that most of the companies, has been this debate by some of the governors, they say, look, most of these companies are headquartered in Lagos, in Abuja, and they pay their taxes in these places. based on the derivation formula that is being projected, it does mean that the places where these taxes are being paid are going to benefit directly. But if you look at it, some of the revenue or some of what is accrued to these companies come from different parts of the country. Is that fair?
The provision of the bill is fair, and I will explain to you. VAT is based on consumption and not on production. And if you permit me to use an example, if you use an example of a company, probably the factory is based in Ogun State. We know there are so many companies there, produce 1 million units of its product. You can be sure that that 1 million units are not consumed in Ogun State. In fact, sometimes almost all the products are shipped out of Ogun State. And so that is why value-added tax is not based on place of production. It is based on place of consumption. And that is why it is called consumption tax. So if an item is produced in Ogun State and sold in, let's say, Enugu State and consumed there, the VAT will be paid in Enugu State. The VAT will be accrued as having the rewrite from Enugu State, where that item is consumed. So that is the way VAT is
the
consumed.
Arrangement in the new tax bill or the proposed tax bill considering fairness in such a way that there won't be a reduction in what is accrued to these states, because this, especially the 19 northern states of the Federation.
Yeah, you see, Sheung, let's look at it from this perspective. If VAT ordinarily is based on consumption, then the revenue accruing from the consumption of products and services must also accrue to the places where the consumption have taken place. That is VAT anywhere in the world, not on the basis
of where
the
proposal that you made, right? Was it based on a globally acceptable standard, or did you consider what kind of template? Which country template did you use, for example?
No, we didn't.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Now, we didn't copy any country's template because Nigeria is unique. And what makes Nigeria unique? We have 37 tax authorities in Nigeria, states. And if you had Federal Inland Revenue Service, makes 38. And then you have 774 revenue committees in local governments. Not many countries of the world had that kind of a system. In the few countries where you have a federation, most often they have only one tax authority, or they have different tax rules for each state. In Nigeria, we have different tax authorities. We have only one tax law. And so that makes our own case unique. And so what has been proposed in the bill is what is fair. Fair in the sense that it recognizes where consumption takes place. Fair in the sense that it promotes economic development, because if in your state you allow businesses to run freely, they generate more economic activity, there is more consumption in your state, you get more revenue. So unlike if some states shut down the economy, and then because they know that at the end of the month, revenue accruing through the efforts of other states who have not shut down their own economy are going to be shared to them. And that is not fair. What is fair is everybody contribute into this big cake, and then we can all share according to our contribution.
So it's based on what is consumed. So there are states that are economically not viable. Economically not viable in terms of comparison. And most of them falls in the northern region of the country. And you imagine that if the purchasing power is low in this part of the world or the part of the country, it also diminishes what the consumption will be. Are they not also excluded based on economic capacity already?
That is not correct, Sheung. And I will answer it with two reasons. Number one, when you look at the VAT revenue in Nigeria today, based on data that is available within the FIRS, majority of VAT come from services and what we call the common or fast-moving consumer goods. Items like sugar, milk, seasonings, and there's no part of the country today where those items are not consumed because they are basic items that are used by everybody, whether rich or poor. Now, services, the same thing. Now, telephone, take telephone for example. There's no poor person in Nigeria that does not have telephone. And that is where the bulk of revenue of VAT is coming from. Now, we have issues of luxury items, vehicles, television, high phones, and all of these high brand. They contribute very little proportion to the VAT revenue in Nigeria. So when you actually now speak as to affordability, the items that are producing most of the revenue are things that almost everybody in Nigeria can avoid. That is on the one part. On the second side of it, talking about fairness, is that derivation is not the only element that is used in sharing the VAT revenue. The VAT revenue sharing proposed recognized the need to make fund available to everyone. And that is why out of 100%, only 60% is tied to derivation. 20% is based on equity. So, I mean, everybody shares equally, irrespective of your size or what you produce or what you do not produce, what you consume or what you have not consumed. Another 20% is shared on the basis of population. So, when you look at it, therefore, 40% is not based on derivation. Only 60% is based on derivation. So, in that sense, we can see fairness. And we state that probably we might consider as not consuming much are compensated because they can share equally 20% and they can share on the basis of population another 20%.
So now, give us an understanding, because what could happen to that tax bill? Because it makes no sense when a huge work has been done and at the end of the day it does not come to pass, because if the northern lawmakers fight this, it will be shut down. It will not make it through. Now, what do you think will satisfy in thinking with the bill? What do you think will satisfy the northern leaders who are not happy with what it is the proposal is right now?
Sincerely, Seun, I don't think we should make this a north versus south or east versus west
Most
issue.
of the argument came mostly from the northern leaders, first from the governors and the traditional rulers, and we saw the NEC who also came, and the major argument without the governor here who said it's skewed against the north. Now the question is that what do you think could make everyone happy? Is there a way that we could do it in such that everyone is happy?
Yeah, thank you. I think I like the way you framed it in this later part. Is to make everybody happy, probably not possible. But to make everybody agreeable, I think that is a more plausible, more feasible goal to seek. And the way to do that is part of what your program is doing, to educate, to make everybody to know what the provisions in those bills mean. And a lot of people who have commented on those bills have not even read them. That is the truth. And that is why you find out that some of the arguments that are coming out there are actually inaccurate. So education and enlightening.
So ignorance has become a major has bedeviled that, because a lot of people are ignorant of the content and the details of it.
Well, I won't use the word ignorance, but I will say that many people have not read the bills. That's the truth. And they are just basing their commentary on them say ASA and ESA. So it's going to help a lot. Number two is that the president said, let this bill go through legislative action. And we all know what happens during legislative actions. Interest groups are able to come and say, look, this aspect of the bill, I think I don't like it. We can do it this way. And then the legislators that we have elected in this country who are representing the people of Nigeria are able to listen and then look at the argument, and on that basis, we'll see whether they need to make amendments to what has been proposed or whether not to make amendments. So like I said, the bills are not yet law until the National Assembly has worked on it and they have become law.
And you think that in the end, if all of this is done, there will be some level of satisfaction?
I sincerely believe so, that once we begin to engage the provisions and we begin to look at all of them in totality, not in isolation. There are 4 bills and all of them makes a bundle. Each of them addressing specific aspects of what we need to do in the tax system. Because
what I asked you earlier is about where the VAT is paid, which is a major argument.
There's a difference from where VAT is paid, and again,
you talk about the consumption.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You see.
So where is VAT being paid? Who is paying the VAT?
Okay, good. That's
the company pays the VAT, isn't it?
Absolutely. But the actual payer of VAT is the consumer. It is you and I.
Who do you pay to?
You pay from whoever you are buying from.
Who is the producer of that item?
Not necessarily.
The retailer. You
buy from the retailer.
We're talking about the the landing point of the VAT. At the end of the day, it lands in the pocket of the producer.
No,
who
it doesn't.
Now turns it back into the government.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You see, again, it's part of what we're talking about, understanding how VAT works. VAT is a multi-stage tax. And if I take an example, so you produce an item to a point in one place, you sell it to another person. At that point, VAT is paid. That person who has bought it from you, if it's a reseller, takes it to where he's going to sell it. When he's selling it, VAT is charged. And then what has been paid before is deducted. And on and on. So ultimately, the person who actually pays the VAT is the person who has consumed the item, who does not sell it to another person.
Yeah.
All the people, the companies, the wholesalers, the retailers who have been involved, they are just agents of collection. So they are not the real consumer. They are not the real payer of the VAT.
But the fundamental thing is that at the end of the day, there will be more education at the legislative process, and everyone will be
happy. Absolutely. I believe so.
I need you to, in 60 seconds, is there any good in that bill? What aggravates, there must be there are 4 propositions. There must be other parts of these propositions that are not this controversial and political.
Yeah, there are many good provisions in the bills. For example, company income tax rate is coming down. Number 2, all the earmark taxes, the different NASENI, education tax, all those other additional taxes have been consolidated into one tax. Number 3 is that all basic items that most individuals in Nigeria, whether rich or poor, would need are exempt from VAT now. Food, children items, schooling items, all medication, all public transportation are all exempt in these bills. So it takes
the burden away from the average person, because it's the fear
so it's actually reducing the tax burden.
People being taxed more should not be concerned. So are you giving us assurance that in that proposition, people are not being taxed more?
No, they are being taxed less. Even for VAT, we are talking about the deductions that are not allowable before are now being proposed to be allowed. Currently, if you are a business and you buy a vehicle for your business and you pay VAT, under the current legislation, you cannot get a refund for that VAT on your vehicle. In this proposal, now you can get a deduction for the VAT you paid on your assets for business purposes.
So there are more good in that bill.
There are more goods. And even this controversy, in my view, is the product of not properly understanding the basis for it.
All right. Let me put the tax to you and your friends at the FIRS. Can you from tomorrow put snippets of what this bill and the good that it has for Nigerians?
Yes.
Let everyone be able to see. Put it online.
We've started.
Please, and let's have more education. Thank you so much, Mr. Matthew Monjubola, who is a coordinating director of compliance and enforcement at the Federal Inland Revenue Service, who brought him to give some education and insight into all of these issues. Thanks so much, indeed.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.